Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a couple of minutes, wait for everyone to join, and then we'll get started. For everyone that's just joined, we're going to wait just a minute or two, give people some time to join, and then we will start. Okay, I think I'm going to make a start. So welcome, everyone. This is a cyber simulation ransomware attack in the Northwest webinar. And this is part of our Cyber Resilient Care project, where we are helping care providers with their cyber resilience in like different forms. And one of them is organizing these interactive webinars. This is the last one of this 3-month project. So we really hope that you enjoy it and you give us your feedback. Some technical things first. Attendees are on mute, so you can't be seen, so don't worry about that. Please use the Q&A function if you want to ask questions. So you'll find it at the bottom of your screen. But if you're on your phone, please tap the screen where the controls are, choose more, and then Q&A. Any questions that we can't answer will come back to you, so you can add your email in the Q&A, but we should have time at the end for it. This webinar will not last longer than 1 hour, and you'll get access to the recording and all the presentation slides afterwards. So if you miss something, don't worry, you'll receive it after either today or tomorrow. Next slide. Great. So introductions, I'm Marta, not sure if I said that. I'm operations manager for Digital Care Hub. I'm also joined by Sam, who's a cyber technical lead, and Naomi from the Cyber Resilience Center in the Northwest. She will do an introduction about the Cyber Resilience Centers shortly. Then we're going to look at Cyber Resilient Care and why is this important. And then we'll jump into a scenario, a ransomware attack scenario. There is 3 rounds that we're going to work through. And in each of these 3 rounds, there's going to be an interactive polls where you're going to be able to choose the best option for you in that situation. And then we'll work through each option. At the end, we're going to have a look at key takeaways and a summary, and we will take all your questions at the end of the webinar. We should have enough time for it. So I will pass on to Naomi to do her presentation.
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Right, I'm just going to share my screen with you. If anybody doesn't like seeing multiple tabs open, look away now. This is organized chaos. There we go. Just put that into slideshow. And there we are. Everybody can see that?
Yeah, all good.
Yep.
Great. Right. So my name's Naomi Haynes. I'm the commercial manager at the Northwest Cyber Resilience Centre. We are a police-led, not-for-profit business, and our purpose is to help protect businesses and organisations from the impacts and effects of online crime. So we work very hard across the Northwest to try and support as many people as possible in terms of organisations, regardless of sector, regardless of size. The cyber applies to anyone and everyone that's in the digital world, even if it is only just by email. So we're led by the Northwest Regional Organised Crime Unit, whose mission is to identify, disrupt and dismantle organised crime groups causing the most harm to the Northwest. So it just gives you a bit of an indication of how serious cybercrime is. It's up there with the more serious crimes such as organised gangs and criminal groups like that, and cybercrime is dealt with, taken very seriously. So a not-for-profit police-led partnership. So we partner with private sector and universities, local universities, to provide funded support and professional cybersecurity services to small businesses, which is affordable as we are not-for-profit. We're part of a national network of cyber resilience centres across England and Wales, so there's 9 centres altogether. So if you're not particularly from the Northwest on this session, that's okay. There will be a regional CRC near you. Just a couple of mentions to our partners. So some of larger organisations support us in any way they can in terms of helping us help others in terms of building resilience, and there's a couple of them there for you. So what is the risk to organisations? So 50% of businesses are reported to have cyber breaches across 2024, the cyber breaches survey from the government. So it's still very prominent across businesses. Obviously 50% is quite high. An estimated 7.78 million in cyber crimes last year. So it's absolutely huge. It's not going anywhere. And as with the advances of technology, it is continuing to have more, that they have criminals more opportunities to find new ways of attacking us. So in terms of social care, adult social care services handle a vast amount of sensitive data, including personal information, medical history, as well as information about staff, members and suppliers. In today's world, cybersecurity isn't just an IT issue, it's a collective responsibility that requires the involvement of every team member. And this is where we like to support, so you don't have to be a technical expert to know about cybersecurity. You just need to understand the part that you play in it, the role that you play as an employee, even as far as just, checking what emails you're clicking on, looking at phishing emails and understanding what to look out for. Yep, that's imperative in reducing the risk. So the biggest threats, we've got phishing, social media takeovers, ransomware, fraud and impersonation. And of the businesses that we speak to and organisations that we speak to across the Northwest, there's very much impacted by all of these, particularly phishing. Phishing is the biggest route in for a cyber attack. As we know, we are constantly inundated with phishing emails every single day. Even from a personal perspective, it is absolutely relentless. Even though the domains are, like Google and Microsoft, are working very hard to try and reduce those phishing emails from filtering into your inboxes, they still manage to get through. So just a couple of case studies there I wanted to touch on in terms of the impacts to cyber. So one of them you may well have heard of is the famous WannaCry ransomware attack. This malware was deployed to over 200,000 computers in over 100 countries. So it wasn't the NHS was particularly targeted by this attack. It was due to the fact that NHS had some systems that were out of date. So they were running on an unpatched operating system. So unpatched basically means that there was an update available, but it just wasn't implemented, and unfortunately meant that they were vulnerable to this particular attack. It basically came to around £20 million during the outbreak, and then an additional 72 million to restore the systems and the data. So absolutely huge cost. Huge implications to this type of cyber attack. And one thing I want you to think about as well is obviously monetary value obviously is huge, big massive factor. But in the sector that you're in, there is a real risk to life as well if your services are unavailable. So this is something that needs to be considered when thinking about cyber, how you prepare for an attack, and the things that you can do to reduce that risk. So as I mentioned, impacts to business and organisations is financial loss, data loss, disruption to services and loss of service entirely. So how do we help? So a little bit like what we're doing today, just raising a little bit of awareness around the support that's available, a little bit of awareness around cybercrime in itself and how it can actually impact you, supporting businesses to build defences and reduce that risk, affordable security services and referral to our partners. So if there is anything that we can't do, we will probably know someone who will be able to help you. We provide free support. We have a sign up which provides regular blogs, updates on threat intelligence, what's going on in the area, any updates to your particular sector that you might be vulnerable to. So things like any trends that are going on at the moment that we feel like our members need to be made aware of, we can keep you updated with those, and it's completely free to sign up. Some of the services we offer, which are at cost currently, cyber risk exposure assessment, so we can assess your organisation, have a look at technical controls, have a look at what's out there about your organisation as well that might be deemed a potential risk, and put it all into a lovely report for you in one place to help you strategise your cyber planning for the year, for example. Security awareness training. We do simulated phishing exercises, so we will actively phish organisations and report back on the results. It's always a super interesting exercise to run, and it will give you an indication of you know, what the risk is. You know, how are your staff operating? Have you got a 50% click rate, for example? Like, so half your staff are going to be clicking on those phishing emails, so your risk is really high. So it gives you that understanding, and then it allows you to make the necessary decisions on what to do next. So probably training staff, for example, and network and vulnerability assessments, which are the little bit more technical services we provide. That's everything from me. Thank you very much. My contact details are there, so if you do want to get in touch, I will put them in the chat also as well for you shortly. Thank you very much.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Naomi. Okay, it's my turn to try and share my screen now, and you'll briefly see my notes as I get this set up. So apologies about this. And then I'll go through everything that we need to. I just realized I started at the beginning by accident. So you've seen all that. There we go. So cyber resilient care, why this matters. First of all, I'll introduce myself. My name's Sam. Matt has already briefly given me an introduction. I'm the technical cyber lead for Digital Care Hub. I'm also an analyst for another CRC in the Northeast. And you may have seen me in NHS. I'm just everywhere. You might know me more as Cyber Sam. That's a bit easier to remember. But let me go through why cyber resilient care matters. So cyber resilience now is crucial because it's no longer a question of if an attack will happen, but when. And when it does, your ability to withstand, respond, and recover under sometimes severe pressure can define your organization's very survival. This is why in this ransomware scenario, it's already too late. You can't stop it from happening. Let's have a look. Mouse there. There we go. So as you can see, let's just hide that. Apologies about this. There we go. I can actually see my screen now. That's better. I'm looking over there. That's why I was, yeah. So ransomware threats in the UK. Attacks are growing in sophistication, increasingly disrupting essential services. You heard about the WannaCry there. You hear about hospitals going down, services going down. You might have known of a big supplier going down that affects everyone. So they're happening more and more. There's obviously severe risks to user data, user safety and data. Double extortion tactics expose personal records, while system downtime can put lives at risk, as we've seen before, unfortunately. And the need for resilience and rapid response. Proactive strategies are essential to protect care providers and the vulnerable individuals you might support. This is particularly difficult when you haven't got a technical background and recognizing these signs. That's partly what we're going to go through today. Hopefully you'll never have to go through something like this. If you have been through it, my heart is with you. And if you do go through something, some of the things you should remember today, and you can reach out to CRC, you can reach out to us so that we can help out. So let's go to the actual scenario itself. So the situation is, one morning, a few staff in your organization report that their computers and tablets are locked with a single image, a ransom note demanding payment in Bitcoin. Digital care records, scheduling, payroll, and even some emails are slowly becoming inaccessible. You need to decide how to respond. This is what your staff sees when they try and log on in the morning. This is what's on their tablets, and this is what is on their computer screen. You see, this is something very similar to what you'd see in real life. Don't worry, the QR code isn't fake. It just goes to Digital Care Hub. In real, it'll probably go to an FAQ page, how to set up Bitcoin and stuff like that. You can see that there's a time left as there. They quite often have a timer going down to put extra pressure on you as they do in a phishing thing. So let's have a look at immediate actions. So just a quick reminder, ransomware has started to lock vital care records and scheduling software. Countdown demands payment in Bitcoin. What do you think you should do first? You've got 4 options here. I'll give you the action, their background, and you can vote on them. So, do you call your IT supplier and isolate affected systems? Background to that is you contact your IT supplier or a local specialist cyber company if you don't have an IT supplier. They recommend disconnecting affected machines to contain the threat. Staff revert to manual processes while experts investigate the situation. Do you ignore it and hope it's a hoax or assume it's a hoax? A colleague recalls a past virus scare that turned out to be fake. You decide to carry on as normal, hoping it's just a bluff. Meanwhile, staff temporarily switch to paper records until systems hopefully come back online. Do you do DIY fixes? You use free online tools. Your daughter who studies computing points you to free decryption tools online. You can attempt to recover the files yourself before calling in an external work and trying to save a bit of money. Or do you decide to reluctantly pay the ransom? It's just too much. You need these systems back up and running now. Your insurance policy has a clause that will cover this initial cost. And you discover a ransom negotiation service that can handle direct communications with the criminals and get the best possible outcome. So if you want to vote on that, Marta, just to let you know, I've accidentally minimized it, so I can't see how people are voting.
That's okay. We'll give it another few seconds, a few more seconds.
I know that all these have legitimately been used in the past from different organizations. Just say there's not really a right or wrong answer, but I have tried to write this so that there's always a strongest response. I believe to be the strongest response.
Okay, I will end it now and share the results. We got 95% of people that chose option A and 5% of people that chose option D.
Oh, fantastic. I do like it when people split a bit like that. I mean, well done everybody on A. That seems to be the strongest option. But we will go through a little bit about what happens if you do decide to pay the ransom. So we'll go through all the consequences of these. If you haven't seen this screen before, you've got a quick summary of what you've chosen, the positives of what you've chosen, the negatives of what you've chosen, and then what happens in this particular scenario. Reason it's split up like this is every option you make, even if it's a really positive one, will have some negatives. And the really bad choices that you might make will still have some positives. So that's why it's split like this. So in this case, you call your IT supplier and isolate affected systems. Realizing you're a little out of your depth, you contact your IT supplier, or if you don't have one, a local cyber specialist company. By the way, the CRCs are a good point of contact for that. They'll have a list of organizations if you're not sure who to go to. You know it's going to cost, but time is critical. Following their clear instructions, you immediately disconnect compromised devices from the network while they get to work. Now, positives of this is that it limits spread. Quarantining infected devices prevents further encryption. Professional approach, experts can handle containment, forensic, and possible data recovery if you need to bring your systems back online. And confidence, staff feel reassured seeing a decisive plan. And there are some negatives to these, as there are, I believe this is the strongest option, by the way, but there's still some negatives to this. Short-term disruption, infected systems do go offline, potentially delaying routine tasks. Cost, emergency IT rates or incident response might be pricey. Most companies you could set up a payment plan with, or maybe have them on retainer, or just have a communication with them before anything happens. If you've got a business continuity plan, have a list of 1, 2, or 3 companies. You don't have to have a financial relationship with them, just enough so that you've got contact details should the worst happen. And in this case, no instant decryption. If backups aren't quick to restore, you will still face some downtime. But in this case, specialists quarantine the network to protect backups. They find evidence the cyber gang attempted to steal sensitive data, but only managed partial files before being stopped because you've got somebody in to help. Now, while some offline fallback processes are needed, that means that you can't rely on things like SharePoint. You have to have some actual physical drives to help get some of the backups up and running. You do avoid paying the ransom and you manage to rebuild from the backups and stop the attackers' leverage. I'll say this is probably the strongest answer. Just try and get help in quickly as possible with people who can experience this kind of thing. But we will go and see the consequences if anybody picked anything else. So ignore it. The ostrich choice, probably always the weakest choice, but I always put it in here because it's when something happens, it does very feel much. It's somebody else's issue. It's not my problem. IT will deal with it. Let's put my head in the sand. It's rarely the right way to go. So in this case, you downplay the ransom note and temporarily rely on paper backups, seeing it as a short-term fix until digital systems recover through an automated update or patch, hoping this will happen. But this doesn't address the underlying infection, and it allows the ransomware to keep encrypting data behind the scenes. If you do nothing, it can get worse. Positives of this are it avoids immediate panic and overreaction. Staff continue, albeit on paper, without a major incident response, preventing fear and confusion from spreading unnecessarily. There's no immediate financial commitment, delays costly decisions like hiring external cybersecurity experts, paying the ransom, or paying for emergency system restoration. Short-termism, I know it's a positive, you know that it's going to cost in the long run. And in the negatives, it's continued encryption. If it is real, the ransomware spreads every time a connected device is used. Late realization, by the time you confirm it's genuine, backups might also be infected. If you've got automated backups, if you're not careful, the ransomware strain, depending what it is, can get into the backups and start to encrypt that as well. That's why you want to act as quick as you can and get somebody in, if you can, to help out who can look at this. Data theft, attackers could exfiltrate records undetected while you do nothing. They may still have access to your system. That's something you need to be aware of when this is happening. So in this case, you dismiss the ransom note as a bluff, and over the next 24 hours, all Vitam systems seize up. Staff can't access medication schedules or care user records, risking serious lapses in care. Cybergang then publish examples of stolen data online, proving it's not a hoax. Your team scrambles under crisis conditions, losing valuable recovery time. You'll see this in all the choices. There's always an ostrich option. Try not to do that, as difficult as it can be at the time. Option C, DIY fixes, use free online tools, something that I tried and failed at miserably. So try not to do this one either. After hearing about free decryption tools from your daughter, you try to fix it yourself. Now this might work for older ransomware strains, certain software, but without expert oversight, you risk corrupting data, and the attackers might be watching. And if they detect interference, they could retaliate by stealing more data, raising demands, or launching a second attack. So the positives to this, potential cost saving, it's some older ransomware variants do have free decryptors. You can just go online, download them, and it'll decrypt your computers. Job done. And then you have to try and kick the hackers out if they're still there. Immediate action, staff see you trying to fix the problem promptly. Negatives overweigh the positives, unfortunately, in this. Incompatible strains. If it's a new or custom ransomware, free tools might fail or corrupt files. This is what I did when I tried to decrypt something. It was practice. It wasn't a real company, so I didn't hurt anyone except for my own pride. But I locked down one of my computers and then tried to decrypt it with a free tool. I got it slightly wrong, and what happened is it made it worse. So if you imagine ransomware is a bad person putting a padlock over your gate and they've got the key to unlock it. That's what they're after. What I did is I used a skeleton key to try and unlock it, but the key broke off in the lock. So then my key wouldn't work, and the bad guys, which was also me, didn't work. So be very careful if you use free decryptors, because you can just make it worse for everyone. Also waste time. Longer you experiment, the more time criminals have to exfiltrate, which is just to steal or delete data. And no expert oversight. You may miss deeper breaches or exfiltration attempts. So if they're still there, if they're still hanging around on the system, or if they're stealing emails and things like that, if they set up an auto forward, these are the things that can be missed if you don't have an expert looking at what's happening. So in this case, you spend hours testing decryptors and manual recovery steps using a personal laptop and a USB stick. Some files do unlock, but others remain scrambled. Meanwhile, the clock on the ransom demand keeps ticking down. Cybergang notices your attempts and sends you a message. The demand is now £5,000, and we will begin leaking personal staff payroll data daily until you stop meddling and pay. They quite often, they will be heavy. If you think of a phishing email where they try and put pressure on you, it's exactly the same with ransomware. They want the money, they want you to pay, they will put pressure on you. And if you start doing something like this, they might up the odds. And then D, I know some of you picked on this and I can completely understand it. We decided to reluctantly pay the ransom sometimes, and it'll come with the slides. I've put some good things on this. We know that you shouldn't pay, and it's prohibited in a lot of cases. But occasionally you feel it's the only way out. So you manage to find a reputable team who specializes in handling ransomware demands. They seek your permission and what your red lines are first, but once granted, they take charge, include decisions on negotiation and ransom payment. You've effectively sidelined as they pursue what they deem the best course of action. I say there are a few positives with this. Professional negotiators. Often professional negotiators exist. They've quite often got pre-existing relationships with certain ransomware gangs. They know the language, they know how to speak to them, they know who is legitimate and who isn't. But they often secure a lower ransom or better decryption terms, such as stopping the countdown timer or paying in installments, than you could do on your own. Reduced immediate stress, outsourcing the crisis lets you focus on care. Quicker recovery. If the cyber gang are professional, I've put it in inverted commas, it can be a quick way to get everything back to normal. Professional, it's a business transaction. If they are a professional gang, that sounds ridiculous. You pay, they give you the key, that's it. That's the thing. The trouble is you don't know who is professional and who's just trying it for extra money. That's the difficulty. So on that, the negatives is there's no guarantee. Attackers could provide a faulty decryption key, or if they're novices, they don't know what they're doing, or demand more money because you've already said yes the first time. Double extortion, ransomware criminals frequently exfiltrate sensitive data before they encrypt, and then paying to decrypt doesn't ensure they won't leak or sell that data later. And moral and regulatory concerns. Obviously, paying is widely prohibited under UK guidance. I think all of us who work in cyber say don't pay as much as we can, as it directly funds criminal activity. And I've put a little thing in here of how that can happen in real life. So the ransom is eventually paid and the cyber gang do deliver a functional decryption key and your systems begin to recover, significantly reducing downtime. However, just days later, the criminals claim they have stolen personal resident records. They demand a second payment for non-disclosure. Additionally, the cyber gang use the funds that you've given them originally to upgrade their ransomware, later striking a major hospital. Now, as in the 2020 German hospital attack, patients are turned away and lives are put at risk, all because the cyber gang managed to strengthen their ransomware using the money you paid. When you see it in isolation, it can be a quick get out of jail as much as you can. But when you look at the larger scale of what can happen, paying these criminals, they are criminal gangs, they do criminal things. Unfortunately, that German one, a lady died being transferred because everything shut down. So it's just something to think about, not to put you under too much pressure, but just something to think about. But moving on, we'll go to communication now, an often forgotten thing from the cyber point of view. How do you communicate about the incident? It's day one. Staff sees their screens locked. Families wonder why calls aren't being returned. What option do you try and pick? Do you use ChatGPT? Other AIs are available. To draft a memo. Under pressure to release an immediate statement, you need something quickly and lack capacity to draft a clear, detailed memo. You appreciate you've got a knowledge gap and you can use ChatGPT. It'll provide technical terms for credibility. No official statement required is B. You're worried about causing panic and decide it's better to wait for more certainty before saying anything. You trust your staff to quickly adapt until the problem resolves. That's the ostrich choice. Cautiously transparent, you explain the ransomware's impact to stakeholders, but hold back any technical or sensitive details until investigations are concluded. This is a little bit in here. Cyber specialist confirms personal data was stolen, so the 72-hour ICO requirement is a must. However, you don't have all the required information. You'll send what you have and hope it's enough. Or D, do you just blame it on a process failure? You suspect someone ignored protocols or clicked on a malicious link, which is against training. So you issue comms labeling it a process failure and leave it at that. So I'll let you go through some of these options. Trying to think then what other AIs, but my mind went blank. I could only think of ChatGPT. Oh, it's Copilot. That's the Microsoft one, isn't it?
Copilot, yeah,
Yeah.
one of the newest ones. Give it another few seconds.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we have a mix results. 79% of people chose option C. 14% chose option B, and 7% chose option D.
Excellent. Nice mix. I like it. I'm sad nobody picked ChatGPT because I've put some effort into actually writing ChatGPT. But let's have a look. Personally, I think the strongest one is probably cautiously transparent. But again, with all of these, there's no real right or wrong. It depends on what's happening at the time. Just take something away from everything. There's no hard and fast rules in this. And if something does happen, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to the CRC, and we'll give what options we can or signpost somewhere where you can. Excellent. So let's go through the consequences if you use ChatGPT. Under pressure to release an official update, you ask ChatGPT to draft your communications. However, you forget to specify that your audience may not be technical, and it produces a tech-heavy explanation. Positives, you deliver something quickly without spending hours writing it yourself, and it might impress a handful of IT-savvy staff who do understand the terms. Negatives, non-technical staff and families are left confused, unsure of what has happened. The overall message sounds alarming, but doesn't offer simple next steps or reassurance. Staff gossip and rumors spread since people genuinely don't understand what the memo is talking about. You'll see that in a second. So you send the memo verbatim as it sounds right and it looks comprehensive. Although you've communicated, most people remain in the dark about the ransomware. Concerned staff suspect a massive breach because of the intense jargon. Families receive no clarity on whether personal data is safe, prompting anxious calls and further speculation. So the memo could look something like this. As of yesterday, our facility detected a malicious infiltration exploiting Decryptor 3.0 to compromise this network's symmetric encryption protocols. The adversary has leveraged a partial initialization vector mismatch in our AES 256 framework, resulting in a residual dwell time of approximately 17.4 hours. During this interval, they execute an escalated privilege exploit via a zero-day memory buffer bypass. Absolute nightmare. I know you're worried after reading that. We are conducting a thorough assessment of potential SHA 512 hash collisions to guarantee integrity of personal data. In the meantime, we strongly request that no one reinitialize or cross-verify root containers until further notice. You see, with something like this, it might be useful to somebody like myself. Oh, he's disappeared. It might be useful to somebody myself or somebody who's IT savvy, but to your general public or to anybody else, this is pretty useless. It's not going to help. It doesn't build confidence. It's just jargon. And while ChatGPT can be really useful to help you draft something quickly, make sure that you know your audience before you do it. So assume option B, that no official statement is required. This is a little bit of the ostrich statement in this one where you just pretend it's not happening. While delaying an official statement until everything is in order may save time and avoid difficult conversation in the short term, putting off the inevitable often leads to greater fallout, deeper scrutiny, and lasting damage. Positives, obviously, no immediate alarm. Staff and families aren't scared by a formal breach announcement, and minimal distraction. You can focus on tackling the ransomware without fielding difficult questions at the same time. Negatives, however, stakeholders and possibly media outlets guess something's wrong, leading to misinformation. If personal data is compromised, failure to notify the ICO in a timely manner may lead to financial consequences with fines, and people feel management is concealing the truth, undermining credibility once the incident inevitably serves. Oh, that's just inevitably. I wrote that and I forgot how to say it. Surfaces. In this particular one, days pass with no official word, fueling confusion and speculation. Families overhear staff mention the system meltdown, while stress rises as admin-heavy paper backups slow care. When the ICO does learn of the breach, your organization faces intense scrutiny for delayed disclosure. As I say, there's no right or wrong, but in this case, if you just stick your head in the sand and pretend it's not happening and don't say anything, don't do anything, it often doesn't help in the long run. You will see this with some bigger companies, though, where they just say, we've had a minor IT incident, and they don't say anything else. And that's when speculation rises and all sorts of things happen. So it's just be careful with that. Cautiously transparent is probably the strongest approach in this particular instance. If you notify the ICO within 72 hours, even with just partial details, you remain compliant while demonstrating accountability to other stakeholders. So initial uncertainty may cause concern. Proactive communication prevents speculation from spiraling and keeps you in control of the narrative. Providing updates as more facts emerge balances caution with responsibility, ultimately preserving credibility and trust. There are a couple negatives to this. It's complex investigation. Gathering enough evidence under tight deadlines is very stressful, especially when you're dealing with the fallout of everything that's happening as well. And ongoing updates, you will need to provide more information as soon as it's available, and this will be time consuming, as well as doing the thing, providing updates, whether it's the ICO to stakeholders, different management, local authority, whoever it happens to be, can be time consuming. However, positives, it does keep you compliant by notifying the ICO promptly. Even if it's just partial information, you remain completely compliant. Honest communication, staff, families, regulators see that you're prioritizing transparency and data welfare, and maintain trust. Openness can calm speculation, demonstrating genuine concern for potential data misuse. That's if they're exfiltrating data. So you promptly inform the ICO that personal data was taken, though you lack full clarity. The partial disclosure meets initial obligations. You reassure staff and families, promising further updates once you have more facts. And over the next week, as your investigation unfolds, you submit follow-up details, fulfilling all GDPR requirements while retaining internal external trust. You don't have to release everything, but if you show willingness and you give as much as you can, that's probably the best approach to something like this, both regulatory and also just like people having trust in you. Let's go process failure, though. This is hidden. So you suspect someone ignored protocols or clicked a malicious link. Rather than examining broader security measures, you issue a scolding memo labeling it a process failure. The subtext implies staff negligence is the root cause. There are some positives with stuff like this. Immediate explanation: by declaring a process failure, management appears to identify the root cause. Is it really the root cause, or is there more to it than that? Unfortunately, with things in cyber, it's sometimes more complex. And it emphasizes responsibility. Staff realize there are rules for a reason, and breaking them has real life consequences. As tough as it is, sometimes somebody has to suffer something before they go, oh, that's why we do it like that. Hopefully you're doing business continuity plans or instant responding, so you don't have to do that. What if the lights go out? What if there's a power cut? Your fire alarm tests? What if your internet goes down? What if a supplier goes down? These are all things that hopefully you don't have to go through in real life. You just do little practices of, so that if it ever does happen, you're ready to go. Negatives, obviously, fear and secrecy. Staff may become reluctant to admit other mistakes or near misses, fearing blame. There's no real solution. Focusing on a vague process failure doesn't strengthen procedures or training, and damage morale. People feel singled out or untrusted, potentially leading to turnover or simmering resentment. So in this particular case, process failure memo circulates, implicitly assigning blame to frontline staff. One team member, feeling targeted, resigns. Others worry about reporting suspicious email or policy lapses. The underlying vulnerabilities remain, and the ransomware threat is only partially addressed. No tangible improvements in training or technical safeguards follow. This is just a case of trying not to blame one person. Even if somebody's done something wrong and you know they have, there's much bigger areas that you can concentrate on to try and improve that. So we're going to the final round now, which is lessons learned. What long-term steps do you take? So the crisis is mostly over. Data is restored or lost, depending how you went through it. And it's time for the bigger picture, building resilience for the future, so it hopefully doesn't happen again. Or if it does happen again, you can just brush yourself down and stand back up much quicker than you did the first time. So do you declare the incident a one-off fluke and move on? Ostrich. Do you identify whoever first triggered the malware and fire them? Blame. Do you purchase advanced heuristic anti-malware, firewall, and AI-based link scanning threat detection? Do you put all your money in there? Or do you conduct a structured debrief, gather lessons, and refine your business continuity plan and procedures? I do like C myself personally, but as you can see there, if you have budget approval for technological upgrades, you can tell that this is fictional. And modern solutions may handle future attacks automatically. I think hopefully you've noticed by the last two choices, it's about a little bit of a mix. Except for the ostrich one. Try not to pick the ostrich one if you can. I'll give you a couple of few more seconds to go through that. Ah, there we go. Nice. Okay, so yeah, mix of D and C, fantastic. I say probably D is probably the strongest one. With a dash of C, I'd like to see, like, if you do manage to get sign off, or you do manage to get funding, by all means upgrade your systems as much as you can. But we'll go through all the explanations now, including the ostrich one, which is the first one. Declare the incident one-off fluke and move on. You hope ignoring it, as if that has ever worked, but you hope ignoring it will keep daily operations calm and avoid extra administrative burden. You're effectively burying the problem, leaving your organization exposed. Positive, there's no extra work initially. No debrief sessions, no new policies, no additional training, nothing to do. Everything's fine, pretend it's not happening. Staff relief, people are glad not to rehash a stressful situation. However, the same vulnerabilities, nothing changes, so future breaches are likely. No institutional memory, hard lessons aren't captured, so mistakes can repeat. In this particular case, 3 months later, a new ransomware variant hits. The realization that no one learned anything hits hard. There's no updated processes, no improved backups. The cycle repeats. The systems are down again. This is why, if you do unfortunately go through something heavy like this, use it. Or if you know of a colleague or a friend or another business that's gone through it, look at the CRC and different people who've been through things. So you go, what would I do in this situation? And then you can improve how you'd be resilient. Obviously, ostrich, ideally try not to ignore it. Identify whoever, nobody picked this is great. Yeah, you hope, try not to just pass blame onto somebody if you can. You hope making an example out of someone will scare others into compliance, but ultimately you undermine honesty and hamper early incident reporting. Obviously, there are a couple of positives. Stakeholders appreciate you found the root cause. Again, it's not really the root cause, but it's if somebody did click that particular link, you could put the blame on that. Strong deterrent, some staff will think twice before ignoring security protocols. However, as you've seen before, it's a culture of fear. Staff hide errors and near misses to avoid blame, and there's no real solution. Punishment alone doesn't improve training or fix system gaps. In this particular case, sometime later, a senior staff member accidentally forgets to report a suspicious email. Their anxiety is so overwhelming that they quit on the spot. Slowly at first, more experienced staff follow it. Eventually, your strict stance on mistakes leaves you struggling to stay afloat as you grapple with high turnover and an inexperienced workforce. Again, if you go down the let's be ruthless, it's sort of understandable, but if you get that culture of fear that starts going through, it doesn't work in the long run at all, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, it's a good thing. Don't try not to blame people if you can. Purchase advance, this is quite a good one. It's not the strongest, I don't believe, but if you've managed to get the money or some funding, this is decent. You're trying to arm your organization with top-notch defenses. However, without improved processes or staff awareness, confidence tricksters can still succeed. So reduce routine threats. Many phishing or malware attempts might be filtered out. As Naomi was saying earlier, you can stop those phishing emails coming to you if you've got like AI scanning, if it looks for patterns and things, but there'll always be a few that comes through. It does show commitment. Stakeholders see your organization learns quickly and plans decidedly. putting your money where your mouth is. It's like, we had a ransomware attack, we've now paid for the best equipment we can. Negatives, however, human weaknesses remains, and I don't mean this in a nasty way. Social engineering, phone calls, impersonation, phishing can bypass even the best tech, and it's also can give a false sense of security. Throwing money at an issue without any investment of time rarely yields a good return of investment. It can be tempting, especially in cyber, when you're not sure of what to do, of throwing money at a product, or a shiny salesperson comes and says this will solve all your problems. It won't. You need a much more heuristic approach. You need to think wider. But having good systems is good. In this particular case, a scammer phones reception claiming to be from Microsoft Tech Support. We've probably all heard this one. Convincing the people-pleasing staff member to helpfully install TeamViewer to update their system. The new hardware is useless against human nature. Attackers can bypass it entirely. Particularly in care, you guys are renowned for being helpful people. It's in the name, care. And unfortunately, bad guys will try and exploit that by getting you to bypass the part of the brain that would usually question them. And they'll try all sorts of tactics to that. So it's just something to be aware of, mainly for phishing, but quite often they'll get the ransomware onto your system via phishing, or they'll come in with a USB key and say, oh, I'm just doing some updates, all sorts of stuff like that. So it's just to be wary. Be prepared, but not too paranoid. And what I believe is the strongest one is the heuristic approach, a bit of everything. Conduct a structured debrief, gather lessons, and refine your business continuity plan and procedures. So you aim to learn from the ransomware attack, bridging policy gaps and boosting staff readiness. This fosters a proactive environment that can withstand future threats, hopefully, or stand back up quickly if it does happen. Again, negatives even to this one. It takes time and effort. Scheduling debriefs, rewriting business continuity plans, testing them, delivering training all require sources. And initial discomfort, testing your business continuity plans can break the flow of daily operational workings. I know that, and it's really difficult to change that. It's just a case of sort of forcing it until it becomes second nature, until certain cyber attacks become as easy to think of as a fire alarm test, or if your power goes out, or if a bedding incident happens, all these things that you're used to. It's just putting a little bit of cyber towards that as well. Positives, holistic improvement. It strengthens technology, processes, and people. Openness and trust encourages staff to report concerns early, enhancing threat detection. And peace of mind, a stronger business continuity plan or instant response means fewer attack vectors and greater resilience. Attack vectors is just how big a target you might be, but with a strong business continuity plan, you start to learn. It's like, oh, well, we do this. Maybe if we did it this way, that'd be harder. And then an attacker would be like, oh, I can't attack them there because it's not there, or it's done it this way. In this particular case, a few months later, staff member receives an email in their personal inbox claiming their very private photos will be leaked unless they pay. Recognizing the tactic from recent training that you put on, they immediately report it to Action Fraud. Now, the police swiftly isolate the threat and locate the culprit, preventing others from falling victim to the same anxiety-inducing scam. Your commitment to continuous learning and an open culture has strengthened both staff resilience and your organization's security. This is quite a big community thing. If you improved resilience in your own organization, this does go to people's personal lives as well. You know how horrible it is if your personal social media gets taken over. The training that you put through organizations will ripple out nicely into your community, whether it's through staff, family, care, whatever it is. You can ripple that out and together build a much more resilient community, which is why we exist, why CRC exists, to try and help improve that. So we're going to some lessons learned. In summary, preparation over panic. A regularly tested business continuity plan or incident response really helps you avoid chaotic guessing during a crisis. If you've been through as many things as you can think of and you've got a piece of paper with a nice checklist, it's much easier than in the moment panicking because you hadn't thought of it. Honest communication, silence or jargon can foster mistrust. Clarity can foster unity. Balance tech and culture, we've seen the good balance. Fancy software won't help if staff are afraid to speak up, poorly trained, or an expert social engineer is the adversary. Learn and improve. Even a bad incident can lead to better policies and a stronger team if you do a proper review. As I say, in a perfect world, you'd never face ransomware. But in a perfect world, I'd have 0-calorie biscuits all the time, and I don't. So reality doesn't quite match up. Just try and be prepared as much as possible. You're never going to be able to catch everything, but let's have a look. Just a little bit about me. I've realized this is now written differently. It was written by me, but the writer of these scenarios started out on the dark side as a black hat hacker. Naomi, I'm sorry if you're still on. Please forgive me. But I use my knowledge and outside the box thinking of how I got into systems to get my first proper job at a bank, helping investigate advanced fraud, cybercrime, and protecting victims. So when facing a ransomware crisis, if this ever does happen to you, don't panic. Freaking out can cloud your judgment, and even the worst cyber attacks can be overcome with the right approach. Just get a brew, call a friend, breathe, and then tackle it head on. Seek support, whether it's a cyber specialist, a trusted colleague, a family member, a cyber resilience center. Help and signposting is always available. A ransomware crisis or something like it can feel overwhelming and isolating, especially if you're a small organization. But you are never alone. Someone is always there willing to help, and it doesn't always have to cost anything. Just somebody there to give you a bit of confidence can be really useful. And stay curious. Keep asking yourself, how could this go wrong? You're an expert in your particular field, in what you do and how you do it. And that mindset can help you spot vulnerabilities well before any attacker does. So proactive thinking can be your best defense. But thank you for that. I'll go through that. I'll just leave any questions, but I'll stop sharing my screen and bring Naomi back in if she wants.
Thank you so much, Sam. Are there any questions from the audience? Please use the Q&A function so we can track. There's none that have come in so far, and I've just pulled a little feedback form, just so you can give us your feedback, and we can keep on improving these webinars.
If you're not comfortable like sending anything now, feel free to email any of us and we'll get back to you with something.
Yeah, absolutely. I have put my details in the chat as well. The free membership link and my direct email if you need anything.
Thanks, Naomi. Oh, you're letting us off really lightly here without any questions.
Yeah.
Give it another minute in case someone's typing. If not, I guess we can all get some time back because we're all really busy.
Thank you, Abby. Sometimes it is you need a little bit of time to digest the information. There's a lot to take in there. As with anything in protecting business, you know, any sort of continuity stuff, you need to process it. So yeah, just process it. And if you do want to reach out to any of us, please let us know, and we'll support you from there.
Christian, it was me. I was a black hat. I did turn to white hat to help. My excuse is I was very young and I just liked computers and chaos.
All right, well, if there's no other questions, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. If you have any other feedback for us, you can just email us. Naomi, myself, Sam, Digital Care Hub will be sending all the slides and the recording either today or tomorrow. So please have a look at that. And it will be on our YouTube and on our website as well. So thanks again and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.